John 14:20. On that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. What? My friend Stefan asked me, hey, can you nail that thing down for me? I'm curious about that. So yeah, this video is for him, but also for anyone else. Things like that are strange sounding, but they show up in other places, and the interpretation is what makes it tricky. What I'm going to do, before I get to that verse, Stefan, I'm going to jump back to the Gospel of Thomas. You know why? I've told you this, or said this to people before, that I find the Gospel of Thomas is my Rosetta Stone. There are people who just love it and think it's pristine and everything like that. But once you get in here and start reading it, you will find things. If you read enough stuff, you will see that it's a blend. It's a collection of Jesus stuff. There's some things in here that are, well, they're like derivatives of the Tao. There is some Plato in here. And if you really want to find, if you really want to clinch it for yourself, go find the Pharisee is like a dog in the manger, and go compare that to Aesop's Fables, the dog in the manger. You will find out that the Gospel of Thomas is a fun blend of all kinds of stuff. That's what makes it good for me. You have to interpret it to see that. When you don't interpret it, but long ago, I read it and I was like, whoa, that's some weird stuff. Once you interpret it, you're like, oh, wait a minute. These guys collected from all over the place and started building, a new variation. So, okay, enough said on the Gospel of Thomas. My name is Dan Paulson. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, verse 16, Gospel of Thomas, Marvin Meyer translation. Jesus said, "Perhaps people think that I have come to impose peace upon the world. They do not know that I have come to impose conflicts upon the earth, fire, sword, and war. For there will be 5 in a house. There will be 3 against 2 and 2 against 3, father against son and son against father, and they will stand alone." You find this verse very similar elsewhere, in fact, in the Bible, but I want to hear this version of it. All right, I've talked about those 5 things. This is the mental hierarchy. Let's take a look at this. Is also in the Gospel of Thomas. Verse 19, Jesus said, "Blessed is the one who came into being before coming into being. If you become my disciples and listen to my sayings, these stones will serve you. For there are 5 trees in paradise for you. They do not change summer or winter, and their leaves do not fall. Whoever knows them will not taste death." Let's go even earlier. Babylonia, Enuma Elish. This is the creation of Marduk. This is the hero. This is whoever needs to be, this is us when we go on the path. We become Marduk. And so this is during the part of the story in Tablet 1 where Marduk is being created to go back and destroy the world. Then Anu called Mariutu, my son, you are king of the gods. He means Marduk. It's a boy. That's Marduk. Marduk, my son, you are the king of the gods, dressed in a shining robe fit for 10 gods. Rising beyond him, there were 5 almighty beams which surmounted his head. 5 beams. Okay, so these 5s keep showing up, and we know what they are, right? The mental hierarchy. We've got, here we go. We've got the higher self. We exist from the cosmos. There's that part of us that when we can step back and look at things and be detached, that's the higher awareness. It's not something separate. It's a part of who and what we are prior to our life experiences. These are divvied up in the mind, whether we want to become unified or not. These are divvied up. We can get there. We know that I want something, but something else happens. Why is that? There's an internal conflict. We have to identify the pieces and parts and where they go. So the higher self is the one, we talked about it, you can be detached from your emotions. Then there's the consciousness, which dictates the way life is judged. Wherever we're experiencing life from, the mind, consciousness, is experiencing that. And based on the way it makes us feel, that becomes the seeds in our garden right there. We're planting those as memories and the perceptions of those memories. So what is happening is the conscious is now, through its own decision-making process, unaware of it, is creating the inner self, the inner being, the memories. There's an inner being there that is called female, whatever, but it depends on. It can also be called sun. And in this material, we're going to find that there's some variation. I'll get there. Okay, so we've got the higher self, the conscious self, what we store and what it stores in, as well as the flow, the general quality, the general flow of life, the graces of God, the flow in the Tao, however life works based on the manner in which we're holding things up here. So those 5 things are there, 5 beams in his head, 5 trees in paradise. Paradise is what? It's spiritual material. Paradise is a good place to be. What is paradise? All of these are doing the same thing over and over again, shifting analogs. Paradise is the kingdom of heaven within, Canaan, the Holy Land, Nirvana, the good flow in the Tao. All of those are mental places to be. Paradise, same thing. They do not change summer or winter, and their leaves do not fall. That means there are no cycles. Whatever is that's like the Tao. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Okay, that's what this is right here. I'll keep making cross comparisons. Buddha, Dhammapada. If a man speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows, like a shadow that never leaves. In all these cases, we're hanging on to something mentally, and that means that we've got a perception and a memory that we don't want to deal with. It's not something we're purposefully hanging on to. Okay, they do not change. There are 5 trees in paradise. So when all of those things are working together, paradise is what? When you've cleaned out the mind, the higher self, the consciousness, the inner self, we've let go of everything. We got a good flow in life. That's paradise. 5 trees that are there, and they don't change. The cycles have stopped. So you see that the Tao, as long as you're not hanging on to anything, you see the mystery. The Dhammapada, as long as you have let go of everything you're hanging on to, happiness is like a shadow that never leaves. Okay, so once those 5 trees are no longer exhibiting cycles, the 5 qualities of our mind are no longer exhibiting cycles, then we're good. We got paradise. If we go back to the Gospel of Thomas, verse now, 16, we've got this part where it says, "For there will be 5 in a house." Now we know what those are. There will be 3 against 2 and 2 against 3, father against son and son against father, and they will stand alone. That's like saying there are 5 trees that are there, but it's not paradise because the cycles are still happening. The 2, what is against? There's some things that we have control over. Okay, the higher being can evaluate and work and function with things. The consciousness is the one that has to be the one that really drives the boat. From our conscious position, we have to address the joy, the pain, the shame, the experiences, all of it. This is our conscious experience is how we know what the quality of our life is. Now, as long as we're happy, everything is working together. When things aren't okay and things are cycling out, what do we have? We have constant cycles of pain. Our life is hurting. Even if things aren't blowing up, you're just sitting there feeling, oh, I don't even feel good. I'm sad. Why does this happen? How come I can't this? How come we get into those modalities where life is not okay. We don't feel good. Life doesn't function well. We get into a funk and it continues to move along that direction. When we get everything working together, we have those 5 trees in paradise that are there. Now, if this makes sense, what we're going to do is go look at John. Next, let's take a look at it and see if we can make heads or tails out of it. It's going to have a different style. Oh, let me say something else here. There's different ways in Abraham that they can be holding this material. Typically, in all of the upstream, as far as I can tell, I haven't looked at it all, but it seems like all of the Jewish material uses God, a called person, their wife, and their offspring. In a case like this, you can still maintain the hierarchy by you don't have to have it that way. You could say Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Oh, there's 3 right there. That's not a 5 part. What happened right there? And what they're doing in that case is they're only establishing that the higher self, the consciousness, is the Son, and the Holy Ghost, which is your bundle of what you are, is 3 components right there. So that's very simple. But you can also see it didn't say God. It didn't say God, husband, and pure wife. Or, as we're going to find out from Genesis, places of the void, husband and wife together in the beginning of a story in a land of famine. That's where you want. You want the famine. That's not that's letting go. The shortest spiritual verse I've ever seen published probably is in the Gospel of Thomas. Become passers-by. Let it go. Okay, and actually also before moving on to John, I forgot about this point down here. 5 in a house. What is a house? I need to identify these things. We've got analogs in there. I do this in my head, but I want to write them down and show you. This is what we learn to do. If you just learn to make these like mental shifts as you're reading things, you read it enough and you realize I'm just redefining some terms in a very specific way. I don't get to call them what I want. They have to fit in a mental hierarchy, and they have to be part of an inward path. That's it. They don't look outward. I am the house. I am the ark. I am the building. I am the temple. I am any of those things. That is me. The higher self, God. Father. Well, it depends. If it's Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the higher self is Father. If it's a conscious self and there's a God, then the Father and Mother are conscious and subconscious. So there's a shift. It depends on which one you're reading. You just maintain the hierarchy. If there's a Father and there's something higher than the Father, then that's God. If the Father is the highest and then the wife comes, then the Father is being used to carry the higher self term. So there can be a shift. Just read and watch. If you got any questions about anything, ask me. Inner being, son instead of wife. Yeah. And if you just think about the way they're doing that in the Jewish material, they're very old stuff. It's very patriarchal. The man is in charge of the wife, and the wife is subservient to the man. It tells us right that in Genesis. This is our inner self that is responsive to the outer self. The inner being, it doesn't get to make choices. What it does when it gets stuff inside of it that isn't resolved is it acts out. That's what it can do. Okay, and I'm speculating here, but it looks like we get downstream. We get, many years later. It comes time for Christianity, the Romans. Things are a little bit different in life. The general outlook. Imagine 1,500 years of time has gone by since the original stuff was made. 1,500 years has gone by, and they're bringing things on board, and it's still a storytelling culture. But instead of it being so heavily patriarchal, it's what happens now. The son learns from the father. Stored memories and their emotional state from life experiences. That's what is acting out. That's where the cycles come from, right there. And then our general state of being, our flow in life, the graces of God, the flow in the Tao, all of that. That is what is honestly going on. We can look at that. We don't have to learn that by listening to somebody. You can look at that and go, oh, yeah, I can detach. And I do make choices like that. And I do have an inner self that is, when I'm not paying attention, that's my autopilot. And it's all of my memories. And all of those stored memories, I can pull them up or not. Or sometimes they come out on their own. And it creates the flow of my life. Nobody has to tell you that. You can look and go, oh, yeah. All right, let's bring John up again and see what that was. On that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. It still might not make sense, but it should be like, oh, okay, I'm kind of seeing something in there. Look ahead of it. Look at verse number 18. We just read something like that, didn't we? I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. And a little while the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Just that first line, I will not leave you orphaned. Where did we just see that? For there will be 5 in a house. There will be 3 against 2 and 2 against 3, father against son and son against father, and they will stand alone. They will stand alone. They will be orphaned. Orphan, stand alone. Those are the same. What do they mean? This is the process. It's all going to be the same stuff I haven't seen before. I'll look at it and go, okay, yeah, I see how they're doing it. That's a little bit different. So the analogs, you can see that they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a concept right there. They don't sound the same. If you don't read them closer, you don't pay attention to them, you don't catch that they're the same thing, that there's a puzzle in there. You have to understand that conceptually, those are the same thing. Single person, by yourself, alone. Is that good or bad? So while in the Gospel of Thomas verse, what we have, there will be 5 in a house, there will be 3 against, so that we have a conflict going in, and they will stand alone. They will be orphaned. We get down to John, on that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. They're not using the 5-part hierarchy. They're using 3 parts of it, but it's still mental, and it's doing the same thing. And in this case, it says, I will not leave you orphaned. So in the first one, it's like, you're going to be orphaned if these aren't together. In this one, it's saying, I'm the one that brings you together, and I will not leave you orphaned. So this is all internal to us. The Father, you and me, I and you. This is us living inside of ourselves in unity. They who have my commandments and keep them are those who love me, and those who love me will be loved by my Father. And I will love them and reveal myself to them. It sounds thick. It's making a religion the way it's holding it. The commandments are what? As simple as in its simplest form, we just read it. Become passersby. We want to disconnect from things. Who loves you? Who is it that do you connect with? And your higher being is where you want to. You want to love that self, yourself, the conscious, the in part, all of it. It's really a lot of words here to denote the idea that we need to not have inner conflict. And when that goes away, you'll be loved by me, by my Father. I'll love them. And remember, it's all a big happy house inside. I'm the house. Anyway, I won't go through the rest of it. I'll leave that to you. How does that sound? I hope it was helpful. When you read a lot of stuff, I cannot emphasize enough how there is one template, short, all over, so many ways that it's mind-boggling. And, sometimes I find that hard to say. There's a point in time where I did not see that. And the more I hooked into things and the more I saw it and the more I interpreted, the more I became astounded by it to the point that I thought I'm doing something completely wrong. There's no possible way that it's this way. I kept working at it. And eventually I just got used to the idea that, wow, it is. It's just mind-boggling. What I'm finding here is easy stuff to see, to show. And this is actually like a first layer interpretation. It's right in my mind. It doesn't even have all of that numbering, word layering. We've got stuff hidden in the background now by repeating this 7 times and that 3 times and that 40 times. All of that is another layering that goes even deeper. This is surface stuff. One layer, that 5-part hierarchy. God, higher self, works with myself when I'm trying to heal. I'm the called person. I am dealing with the stuff I have inside of me. My wife who, went off and had sex and now has gathered up a bunch of stuff. This represents that we've had life experiences that we now are carrying things with. And what do we want to do? Jesus is much simpler. We want to have a wedding in the bridal chamber. We want to have our conscious and our subconscious combined in such a way that when you're not paying attention, life is fine. Okay. The verbiage is thick. When you work it through, you're going to go, what? That's it? That's pretty simple. But it's hard to get there through the words. But it's their technology. It is what they did. Look at people today, kids that are good at, you look at that and go, man, how do you do that? This was theirs. They had time. That's what it takes. It takes time. You have to play this all day long. They had all day long. Today, we don't have the time. The reason people don't see this now, well, they didn't see it then either, a lot of them. Anyway, okay, Stefan, thank you for the question. Sometimes I just get so hot that nothing's happening. I start picking on people or something, trying to get some activity going. So asking questions like that it's a boon to me. It really is. I appreciate it. It helps me focus and do something that's meaningful. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.